Hi, today I read the 876 Contact, Thursday, January 25th, 2024, 16 minutes past 8 a.m. Billy? There you are again, my friend. Greetings and welcome, Ptaah. I'm very glad you're back. Quetzal was here last night and told me you were coming today. He found a new way to get into my office because I was occupied and we did not hear a knock on the door. We were in the office talking animatedly, so we did not hear anyone knocking on the door of Eva's office. Eva's office is adjacent to Billy's office. I only realized that someone wanted to come in when the red light on the phone flashed and Michael's phone number was displayed on the machine, but he was in my office. So the case was clear for us, so we ended our conversation immediately and Michael left. Then Quetzal already came in. So I was talking with Billy and then he sees that the phone ring, and he saw my name in the display, but I was sitting in his office. So someone was in my room and called Billy, and that was Quetzal. So Quetzal was in my room and called Billy, and that he wanted to talk to him. So then I left and Quetzal came. Ptaah, greetings, my friend, and I'm also happy to be back. Ptaah was gone for several months. Yes, Quetzal, he is inventive and never at a loss when it comes to making himself noticed. He knows his way around the center, and he also knows how to use the speaking apparatus. Billy, we have noticed that. By the way, we call the intercom a telephone. But you know that. Well, the speaking apparatus, we call it a telephone. Anyway, Ptaah, of course, it is the might of the habitual, as you sometimes say. Billy, exactly. I go the same goes for me, because you just get used to something and then you use it completely automatically. That is so, Ptaah says. Billy, unfortunately it is not always good, because the might of habit often brings trouble or just something that should not be. Ptaah, I guess that is correct, but it is hard to control the habitual-based things. Billy, that is true, but you should not get angry about it like some people are. And the habits, our habits, control us very much. And the Buddha shall have said, nothing is more powerful than a habit. And that might be true. If you want to change yourself, then your bad habits are very strong, and the good habits are sometimes not so strong, Or to develop good habits and to let bad habits go, everybody knows how difficult it is. Or just to change the habit of using a certain word, instead of saying speaking apparatus, to say telephone, It always creates resistance in the consciousness. Learning is a difficult process, because new pathways have to be used in the brain. That means the brain has to kind of fire into different directions the electrons or the information. And that requires a lot of energy, kind of rerouting the energy in your brain. And that, of course, creates resistance, So, and the same with Billy's material. There's so much new, and also the time when it comes to the universe, the size of the universe, the age of the universe, it's all so much bigger than what we have learned. It's so difficult to grasp that this creates so much resistance. And also what Billy writes about events that happened and the extent we are lied to, we discover then. This creates so much resistance, and also to unlearn what we have learned, that is wrong and a lie. And you believed in that, again, belief, and that it takes a lot of energy. It's really hard. And it's important to make yourself aware of that how much you are controlled by your habits, and this is my habit. So become aware of it, and then I should change that, and then to not do it, or to accept a certain habit and do that, and then but also to do that step by step, Trying to change many things at the same time is very difficult. It requires even more energy. However, that is not impossible, of course. Some people kind of change their life very radically overnight, So that is also possible. It's not impossible. But they are kind of very ready then for that, For example, once a woman told me she, for her it was very easy to give up smoking, because she was completely ready for it, That's It differs from situation to situation, from person to person. Okay. Then Achim wrote something, and Ptaah reads it. And it's called The Treasure of the Creation Energy Teaching and the True Wisdom. On the 24th of January 2024, UNESCO celebrated World Education Day. On this day, the Cultural and Educational Organization of the United Nations reminded us of the common educational goal of the global community. By 2030, all human beings should have the opportunity for lifelong learning and an inclusive, equitable, and high-quality education. All UN member states have agreed on this in the Global Education Agenda 2030. Now, this is, in my view, a complete loss of reality, because it can never be achieved, and it's because it just sounds nice, of course, but that you think that are serious people, and I just can laugh about it, because they have the global numbers. They know how poor the world is. They know how difficult it is to uplift any country just a little bit from its poverty. And they want that by 2030 already everybody can have a high-quality education, which doesn't even exist in many countries, high-quality education. So it is completely delusional that this can be achieved. And they know that, actually, but it sounds nice. And the people will be happy to hear that, of course. Oh, there's hope. 2030, everybody will have education, And then the question is also what kind of education. But you see what kind of people are in these high-ranking positions. That they actually make the statement to the public that this is their goal by 2030. Just to have that goal whenever, well, that would be a different question, That would be a different thing, I mean. But by 2030, I guarantee you, 2030, there will be not high-level education for not even 20% of the people on this planet, It's, anyway, it continues like Achim writes, all good and well, you might say. These are valuable goals, but they only take into account one side of education, namely the purely material school and book knowledge that teaches all things of the gross material, physics, chemistry, mathematics, and all other sciences separately and incoherently, and without the crucial basic knowledge of the creation energy teaching, respective teaching of the truth, teaching of the creation energy, teaching of the life. Without this profound knowledge and the relative wisdom of the human being resulting from the study and implementation in daily life, the life of the human species on the blue planet Earth is not only largely devoid of content, alienated from meaning, and aimless for each individual human being, but its continued existence is highly endangered. The current world situation and the now very precarious and life-threatening state of nature on our home planet are in acute danger of the collapse of all vital systems of planetary nature and the entire environment. Every awake human being who looks at the given reality with an open and neutral mind must be aware of this. The human beings on Earth must urgently and immediately turn to the creational natural truth and reality and recognize that they can only lead a good, healthy, fulfilled life worth living if they take responsibility for themselves and the creation around them and create the foundations for a truly humane life within themselves. Anyone who is in search of the deep meaning of life, who longs for answers to questions about the inner and innermost nature of human beings and simply wants to improve the way they deal with themselves and their fellow human beings in their everyday lives, and to improve in understanding, friendship, love, harmony, and connectedness, will find a real treasure trove of knowledge and wisdom at FIGU, which is now offered worldwide in the various online shops of the FIGU groups. I will put the links of the FIGU shops in the description below, and that is true, of course, and people should turn to that and learn. So if you're interested, that's where you can find books and other material, though lots of it is for free. Like the contact reports are all for free in German and English online, and also increasingly in Spanish. And of course, he's right that even an hour where we have, let's say, professors and you think they went through all the education and have a high level of education, but if this education is just if not guided in the form of to evolve as a human being, to become a true human being, to that the ultimate goal is to acquire wisdom, we have lots of scientists who are also believers, which is is a direct contradiction to the scientific approach where you go by facts, So it shows, even if you have a high-level education, it doesn't mean that you're a wise person or even rational. I mean, string theory is a dead end. It has nothing to do with reality. It's a mathematical construct which, fortunately, more and more scientists realize is erroneous. But still, many scientists are still working on it full time, on string theory. Yeah, so they are wasting their time on something which is a dead end. And if they would read Billy, they would find out quickly. This has nothing to do with reality. This is just mathematical abstractions which are not based in reality. String theory, for example, and also other theories. Yeah. Then there's also something about the creation energy teaching, respective spiritual teaching. The creation energy teaching, respective teaching of truths, teaching of creation energy, teaching of life, does not represent an esoteric, religious, sectarian, religious, or other cultic or political direction. It also does not contain a spiritual panacea or could enable anyone to perform miracles. Contrary to the latter, this teaching explains that no masters fall from the sky, and no human beings, roast pigeons, fly into their mouths, but that all results must be worked for purposefully and thoroughly if they are to be successful in the long term. It also makes it clear that a rapture, divinity, or other types of elevation of one human being above another one can never be truthfully justified, because all human beings are of the same nature and therefore of the same value in their capacity as human beings. This is a nice summary of what the creation energy teachings are. Of course, it's just partially summarizes this, of course, but that all human beings are really equal, and that you have to work hard for progress. That is a universal thing. No matter on what planet you live, any progress in society or within yourself, you have to work hard for it. But that is okay, and it also can give you, therefore, a lot of satisfaction if you make progress over the years, And yeah, so it's worth striving for it, And even if progress, sometimes also progress is a little quicker, It's not continuous, and then there are times where you also work very hard and the progress is very slow, But at some point you get through. There are obstacles are different, and we all come with different talents, or and so for some things you have to work harder, and for others it's easier, But overall, it is not easy to change our habitual thinking, of course, to be open for new thoughts, and then also to step by step accept them, But after investigating them to be true, of course, And that is work to investigate, within yourself, or to find information and data that supports whatever statement. So then there's also what Billy wrote about overpopulation. And so Ptaah reads it, and it says, the human being lives in the excess of overpopulation as if he owned Earth, but he is only an iota of the great whole and a guest, and is, if it is taken exactly, absolutely dispensable for the planet and its nature and all its ecosystems, because these get along absolutely without the Earth humanity, whereas the human being cannot live without the whole of nature, while he criminally destroys and all its ecosystems and even the planet itself with all evil machinations and means. There's truly no other living being on Earth that does this irrevocably and sustainably, only the human being alone, who destroys not only his own habitat, but also the habitat of all living beings. Now think about that for a while, please. That Earth doesn't, and nature doesn't need us, but we need nature. And they always talk about sustainability. We destroy it sustainably, And we don't care. If more people would care, it would stop. But it continues because there are too many people who are too materialistic, who are too greedy, and have no wisdom that it's much more important to save nature. And in many cases, saving it would mean just to leave it alone, But we don't. And then he continues, and every day around 160 life forms of all genera and species are wiped out through the fault of human beings, as a result of their destruction and devastation of all these important ecological areas, and in some cases also through their direct actions in the form of shooting, poisoning, or other forms of killing. However, despite all this monstrosity, it does not occur to the Earthling to drastically reduce its overpopulation in the completely normal form of a controlled birth stop, and necessarily over a period of years, in order to bring Earth's humanity to a normal population level, which is to be calculated at around 500 million human beings for the entire Earth planet. However, at 9.44 billion in 2024, this measure has been exceeded 18-fold. Not 18%, 18-fold. So 1,800%, whereby this overpopulation was created in just 300 years, namely from the year 1701, when 536,718,004 human beings still populated the Earth. We have these exact numbers from the Pleiaren, of course, and they are very precise about this. I don't know how they measure it so precisely, but I guess they have many kind of telemeter discs around the planet, which can pick up the thought frequency, the individual thought frequencies of each human being and thereby can measure it. But that's just a guess. I don't know that for sure. But somehow they can measure it down to a single human being. And so these numbers of 7.7 billion or now around 8 billion or what they say, it's much higher already. It's 9.44 billion for us. And also think about 160 species, life forms, go extinct every day. So every morning you wake up, another 160 life forms have vanished from this planet forever. And cannot be brought back. Maybe some of them through DNA later on, but like in Jurassic Park, but that's not for sure. But most of these species will be lost forever. And the greater the diversity on a planet, there's also more stability and richness in life. And the more the species go, the more life basically goes of this planet. Also on a subtle energy level. A planet itself is a living creature or being, not a creature in the sense like an animal or a human being, but the earth itself, and this is not some esoteric knowledge or so, or is a living entity, and it creates life when it's possible. And we are now, and we have had this rich planet with so many different life forms, and that they go so quickly now is really a tragedy. And people are not, it's not just that a few life forms here and there go, it's many life forms, and the consequences will be also for us drastic. There was life, there were humans living on Mars a long time ago. And I don't know what they did, but I'm sure there could still be rich life on that planet if they hadn't misused life on that planet. If they hadn't made big mistakes. Because Mars is still in an orbit around Sun where it could sustain life. And that's also why Musk and so on want to go there and to create life there, which of course is also a nice idea. But I mean, with this technology, with rocket technology, it's just ridiculous, to attempt that. It will of course fail. First steps, of course, it will be, but with rocket technology, it's, So it would be smarter to wait until the technology is there, that you can travel there quickly and also bring there large, great tonnage there to build stuff and create an atmosphere maybe some way. And but we have so many problems on this planet, and we should rather try to solve those and focus on that before we go anywhere else. but come back, they also must have destroyed their life. And to think that a planet will always continue to exist, that is just told me a couple of days ago someone, nature will always continue. No, nature does not always continue. When also a planet is sucked dry energetically because it was interfered in an ignorant way again and again, nature can take quite a bit. But what we do to nature, it cannot take. And the result will be that we cannot exist on this planet for millions of years. I mean, there will also other things happening with the sun and so on, but we are destroying our planet now. And we create already the seeds that some of it might spring up in tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years, but then they will spring up, and planet Earth will become Mars-like, and it will not be just like this will happen in hundreds of millions of years or billions of years. No. This will take much quicker, And so it's really a huge tragedy what is happening now. And people are almost completely ignorant of it. And you can just watch and see what's happening, You can really change yourself and wake up how ignorant and dangerous the people who govern the world are, and work on yourself and improve yourself. And of course, if you can make small contributions, or raise awareness a little here and there with friends, or even in some powerful people to, talk to them about it, maybe. Sure, try that. It's good, but the overall trend is so powerful, so strong. People are so deceived and incapable of thinking in a neutral, positive way, and also to think critically and reasonably, that this is not going to happen. People are too distracted with superficial stuff and leave the important decisions to all the powerful people, and don't try to interfere in general, that it just goes down the drain step by step, Though, of course, there will be also good things happening in the future. But this century will not be a pleasant one. But individually, you can improve your life, by following what Billy says and apply it. That's the key, to apply it step by step. And then you will see improvement in your life. I've seen that in my life, and so it works for me, and I know it also works for you if you take it to heart and apply it step by step. So I'm still, of course, it never stops, actually, and it's never a point where you can say, okay, now I'm a wise person and now I achieved the goal, There's no enlightenment, there's learning never stops, but you can achieve a state of tranquility, serenity, and to be content, and that is what you can achieve, and that is very satisfactory, that you are content and basically happy, even though the world around you, goes to shambles, because you know that the result of their actions, and you will experience the result of your actions. So if you create good causes, and also good things will happen to you, you know. You might have to work very hard for just small improvements, you know, but it works. Now this is, I jump ahead, and this is something where Billy talks about the UFOs. Now, just how deceitfully, meanly, irresponsibly, and idiotically lowly intelligent the citizens of the world are treated worldwide in the aforementioned wise, and how they are deceived, lied to, and cheated by the unrighteous part of the authorities, is also the case with regard to the increasingly frequent appearance of UFOs worldwide. Not only certain parts of government, but also the military and secret services are leading the people by the nose, also in Switzerland, and denying the existence of UFOs, although clear, tangible evidence of their existence exists. Now, the Pentagon a few years ago, there's supposedly leaked video, blah, 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 tic-tac. Well, that's not evidence, you know. That is ridiculous, you know. Billy's photos are 1,000,000 times better, and they know that. Billy's photos are known worldwide, especially in the military circles, on the higher levels, of course, and in intelligence, and also the media. So they could present these photos anytime, but they don't. They always show this really ridiculous tic-tac video, which might easily be a fake, you know, and also say, well, there are these UFOs now, but we don't know what it is, and if they're extraterrestrials, we don't know, you know. It's not just that they're UFOs and that they really do exist. They're also controlled by intelligent living beings, of course, you know. It's not... the UFOs don't build themselves, you know. And even if they are built by androids, well, then these androids are intelligent, you know. We are also already on the brink of intelligent... or basically we do have AI and intelligent robots, you know. And they will replace millions of workers in the future, you know, because they can work 24/7, you know, and they don't even get a pay, you know. So anyway, with the UFOs, they are deceiving the whole world about it, you know. And they don't tell about Billy, and they are welcoming every distractor, you know, who says I'm in contact with whoever, and it's just a big lie, so that people don't find out about Billy, you know. Whoever those persons who can provide such evidence are either simply declared insane or mentally ill, labeled as cranks or fantasists, etc., have their memories erased or given medication, persecuted, threatened, silenced, or simply radically eliminated from the world and thus murdered. That is happened quite a few. Reynold Stevens was lucky that he was just 5 years imprisoned, that he wasn't murdered there. So he got away on completely false charges, you know, pedophilia. It's just ridiculous. He was not a pedophile, not at all. And so you see the interlocking of intelligence who wanted to put him away and the courts, you know. It all interlocks on a certain level. And he was lucky. Others were murdered. Like Phil Schneider, for example, you know, he said too many secret things, and what he said about Billy is true, and what he was experienced by himself is true what he said, or certainly mostly. I don't know everything, I don't belong to their club. But they murdered him for certain, and he's just one of them. But he was extremely high level. I don't know anybody with that clearance or coming forward, Colonel Philip Corso also was high level. I mean, even more high level when it comes to government. But when it comes within the network of people who really know about UFOs and work in that field, both were high level, and sure. Then Billy continues, "This is done by simply claiming and lying that the people concerned had a fatal accident, that they were seriously ill or had suffered a heart attack, etc. But threats and such persecutions or deaths are never and ever investigated and cleared up, because this is prevented by lies and deceit from parts of the government and the military, to which the authorities also play along in some places. In the least serious cases, the persons are branded and labeled as fantasists, brain patients, illusionists, madmen, and cranks, or they are interned in spinning windmills and even in asylums to keep them away from the public, to whom they could tell their observations and experiences. On the one hand, this is the image of the truth, while on the other hand, the true interests of those who are keen to get hold of UFOs and their futuristic technology in order to abuse them for their own purposes, and their lust for power and hegemony are concealed and not publicized. In this regard, the USA in particular should be mentioned, as well as Russia and China, but also smaller states. So smaller states will be a couple of industrial states, of course. Certain elements in Switzerland are also endeavoring to deny and ridicule certain things when it comes to UFOs, but are obviously and undoubtedly so lowly intelligent with regard to surveillance, etc., that it is hilariously stupid and so conspicuous that even the blind, deaf, and insane can perceive and understand what is actually being played out. Billy is talking about here the surveilling efforts here with us, partially, which are, of course, not fruitful, Well, it is probably not greed for power that is the driving force. He's speaking about Switzerland, but fear and uncertainty as to what is really going on, as well as influences from abroad, which I think is better to keep quiet about. The fact is, however, that it is mainly states like the USA, Russia, and China, but above all the USA, that are keen on the futuristic technology of UFOs and ... America's homogenistic behavior, which cannot be denied, does not even stop there, because the cowardly fear of those responsible leads them to shoot at the UFOs themselves, whose technology they want to use for their hegemonic behavior, but are always unable to understand. Well, not always, but that's not a correct translation really there. But in many cases they cannot figure or re-engineer that stuff because they really don't understand how it works or how it was put together. Even if you can find out what elements are in there, and even if these elements exist on planet Earth, and the percentage of each element, you still don't know how it was made. And that's what they are struggling with a lot when it comes to re-engineer these alloys, which have incredible propensities sometimes. And but that's what it's about. That small group of very powerful people who control the UFO information and who are also very keen in keeping everything quiet about Billy, try to shoot down UFOs and extract the technology, futuristic technology, for their own purposes, and take over the world. That's simple, you know. Yeah. And for example, people like there were hearings in the Mexican Congress, and Jaime Maussan presented mummies, and we investigate this now, and it's really difficult just to get that investigated. And I saw an article, I don't know if that's true, or a video, and they said that 30% of the DNA is different. Now, if that is really true, this is definitely extraterrestrial, because monkeys, their DNA differs only 1 to 2% from a human being. So if that is, if just 10% different DNA, that is a completely different creature that certainly didn't originate on Earth, you know. And in this video, they attacked Jaime Maussan, you know, as like a kook and so on. You see again the cover-up activity. The media doesn't want the truth to come out either, you know. They're just the extension of the government and these secret organizations who want to keep this secret and under wraps. So this is also, this channel will never go viral, you know, any video, because this is truth. You know, so and this cannot come out, you know. Okay, it continues. The exponential world population will probably come to an end at some point. Now, Billy, I jump ahead, and he talks about the overpopulation. The exponential world population will probably come to an end at some point because the destructive damage caused by overpopulation to the planet, to all ecosystems, and thus to all nature and its fauna and flora, as well as the destruction, extinction, will take its revenge. On the one hand, the growth of overpopulation will continue to collapse because poverty and diseases and rampantly spreading diseases will become more and more rampant as evil epidemics and pandemics, just as wars will also cause a reduction of humanity worldwide. Climate change and the resulting catastrophes and the poisoning of the atmosphere will also take so many lives that the world population will decline, but this will not be enough to reduce overpopulation to such an extent that everyone can live a reasonably good and healthy life again, and all existence on Earth can recover, normalize, and function properly and correctly. Now this is not gonna happen. Billy writes in Prophetine, there is a prophecy that the global population will experience a reduction of 2/3. So if we say 9 billion people, that means 6 billion people will die, then we still have 3 billion, Or when soon it reaches 10, then it would be way over 3, So, of course, these are events that are not happening in the next few years, but this population collapse or great reduction, it's not really, we will experience it as a collapse because billions of people will die in a relatively short time, but it's basically just a reduction or collapse. Then it would really fall down back to these levels under 500 million, So I asked Billy about it. Well, Billy, then we are still kind of 6 times overpopulated, which is still, way, way, way too much, So, like 1 billion people would be just the absolute maximum the Earth could sustain, but it wouldn't be a good life, But, it could be sustained, And he didn't answer my question really. So I guess we will have overpopulation for millennia. Anyway. So if these 500 million, when we reach that, and that is just the foundation to create a good life on Earth. Think about that. That's why he talks about this again and again and again for 50 years now, You throughout so many contact reports, he talks about it with Ptaah and Semyaz and all the others. And there are quite a few people in high places who know about Billy and who also read his stuff and who know about this problem. But nobody says anything in powerful positions, Yeah. So, and these leads us to the next point where Billy writes about sociopathy. And Ptaah says, this is really a very important topic that you bring up because, as I have noticed time and time again, when closely observing and judging certain Earth's humanity, sociopathy is very much in evidence. Billy, this is effectively so, especially with rulers, civil servants, security forces, and military personnel, as I have felt time and again during my life. But I have also had experiences of this with religionists or religious people, as well as with everyday personalities, which I also notice again and again with such people every day. Ptaah, I can confirm from my point of view that this is indeed the case, because through my observations and clarifications that I make in my observations and clarifications that I carry out here on Earth, I recognize that sociopathy, I hope I pronounced that correctly, sociopathy is strongly pronounced in certain human beings. This especially in persons who hold leadership positions of some kind, and therefore consider themselves to be extremely important and irreplaceable. But let me read your article now, because I'm interested in what you have written. Sociopathy. Yes, what is sociopathy? That is the question here, which can only be answered in such a manner that it is nothing other than an abnormal, ausgeartete behavior. This is not translated. Ausgeartet is, in brackets it says here, to get very badly out of control of the good human nature. That is how you can translate it. But it's better to use the German word there, ausgeartet, because it's more precise. So it is nothing other than an abnormal, ausgeartete behavior of the human being, incapable of any form of empathy and sense of guilt towards fellow human beings. Basically, a sociopathic person is someone who has an antisocial personality disorder and is unable or only able to a very limited extent to empathize with the thoughts and feelings of another human being and to understand their creational energy processes, respective their thoughts, feelings, emotions, and sensations. This indicates and testifies to an inability in this respect, as a result of which there is absolutely no willingness or ability to perceive, recognize, empathize with, and understand the personality traits of other human beings, which can simply be described as an inability to feel. Sociopathic humans, therefore, completely lack the normal emotional empathy or feeling empathy, social empathy, and cognitive empathy, as a result of which they are unable to empathize with other human beings and even judge and treat them from above. And they do this in such a manner that they, the sociopath, thereby create a sense of well-being for themselves and are indifferent and selfish towards their fellow human beings, while always putting their own well-being at the center. So you will certainly also meet sociopaths in your life, and have already certainly and will again, and narcissists and also psychopaths. Try to stay away. That's basically all you can do. And the giveaways are that they only talk, that they like to talk continuously and about themselves, and that they have to be in the center, and that they show no concern or empathy for other human beings. When somebody has an accident, then, oh yeah, okay, they don't care. And they're like energy vampires, where it's best to get away. Now, if you have like a colleague at work, and you're confronted with such a person every day, that's not easy. Try to stay away as much as you can, And if you have to work with a sociopathic person at work, then try to keep the communication to a minimum. What has to be said is said, and but when they kind of talk and talk and talk, then I just let them talk, and Sometimes I give like indications here and there where I bring up some facts, but in general I know that they're not gonna listen, they're not gonna, change their behavior and so on. And it's a burden for the consciousness, and you can only try to avoid them, or let them talk if they think they're the greatest always, and you don't have to say yes, 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 you are no, don't do that either, you don't put oil on the fire, but but just also don't kind of completely ignore them, but at some point I just don't say anything anymore, and then after a while they realize, oh, he doesn't respond anymore, and then sometimes their monologues stop, eventually. I think that Ptaah wrote that about 1% of the population is psychopaths on this planet. And sociopath, I guess, is even more. There are also lots of narcissists, people who have empathy and compassion are also around, fortunately. But certainly not in such a large stock as you think, And then people to find who can really think clearly and fact-based, that is, the FIGU community is small. Later on, he goes on. It's quite long, so I skip ahead. As with every form of sociopathy, because there's inevitably always suppressed aggression lurking behind it, which can harbor a certain degree of danger under certain circumstances. However, this is fundamentally different in every sociopath, with or without any psychopathic background. And so everyone is controlled according to the nature of their character damage, and thus their personality disorder. Something is always and in every case present, also in a minimal wise, namely a certain dangerousness, which can be quite unpleasant for certain fellow human beings or the entire social environment. This is because the personally misguided behavior of a sociopath is unpredictable. This is because the sociopath's entire behavior is geared solely and without exception towards their own personal interest and their general well-being in any form, and they are completely indifferent to the well-being of others. So in other words, if you provoke a sociopath who always have a sliding scale with a psychopathic background, they can backlash at you, and it can even be dangerous that they go on a rampage, and kill people, That's what you hear then here and there, and then that person snapped again and killed his family, and or in the streets, just random shooting around, someone, and because someone provoked that person too much, and then he snapped, or mostly men, and so you don't have to be afraid of a sociopath, but think about my advice, and that it's better to get away from them. and don't provoke them more than, when you find out that they are sociopathic or psychopathic or narcissists, though narcissists don't tend towards violence so much, sociopaths more than if you provoke them, and psychopath, you're on you're on thin ice, and if it's not happening in a violent way, it can be that they start intrigues against you, bad-mouthing you at work, and then nobody talks suddenly with you anymore and you don't know why. Things like that, So that's why I say better, don't ignore them, because that is what they are very sensitive or sensitive to, because they have these huge egos, and so you talk to them. If they address you, don't ignore them. You talk to them, but keep it to a minimum. Keep it just to the facts, and and then try to get away, or don't talk more than necessary. This is about about the creation energy teachings, and I would like to read this to you. It partially summarizes the creation energy teaching very well. The truth is that everything works out for the best for me, because I live in the success of the idea of the creation. This is thoughts of the third of the 12 consciousness-forming sentences from Meditation from a Clear Perspective. That is the second book. Meditation from a Clear Perspective is the second book of Billy by Billy about meditation. And I haven't read it yet because Einführung or Introduction to Meditation, his first book about meditation, is completely sufficient for my life, and but this is this is taken from that book, and I can recommend it to everybody. Of course, everything that Billy writes is excellent stuff, but I'm not at that point to really understand that yet. So I might understand most of the words and the sentence and the meaning, but the deeper meaning I don't get. So, but this is worthwhile reading. Like all 12 sentences, this sentence is also a means of self-forming human consciousness through concentration, affirmation, meditation, and effective knowledge, and thus a powerful way of using thoughts to trigger valuable feelings, which in turn shape, reshape, and reformat the psyche and consciousness in a creative sense. The question here is, what is meant by the success of the idea of creation, and why everything turns out to be good for human beings when they become effectively aware of it. The idea of the creation originally leads back to the impulse given by the absolute absolutum for independent self-creation, from which our material universe of creation emerged 46 trillion years ago through a Big Bang. The absolute absolute, in turn, is the lowest of 7 absolute forms, of which the highest form is the absolute being. Being, all letters capitalized, which continues to expand and evolve endlessly in the absolute nothing. everything that exists in our creation universal consciousness, with its 7 universes, was therefore created by the subtle elemental force of creation energy, which originally owes its existence to the Sein Absolutum. Creation does not think and also has no ideas in the human consciousness sense, because its work is based on creational energetic impulses, which generally function perfectly and on which all creational laws in all its universes and their dimensions are based. But for a better understanding, these creational impulsations and swinging waves are simply called ideas. They also contain the irrevocable laws of causality, on which everything in the gross, subtle, and subtle material realms is based. Better it would be translated like gross, subtle, and most subtle material realms is based, including the human being as a unity of this body, his consciousness, and the spark of creation energy that animates him. Without the all-pervading impulses, swinging waves, and forces of creation universal consciousness, which travel through all the spaces and times of their universes at 10 to the 7,000th times the speed of light, nothing could exist, nothing would have ever come into being, nothing could evolve. This 10 to the 7,000 times the speed of light, that means that the creation energy travels instantaneously without loss of time or in null time throughout the entire universe. Billy and Ptaah are capable of spirit telepathy, and spirit telepathy uses creation energy to communicate, and therefore no matter where Ptaah is in the universe, Billy could reach him instantaneously no matter where he is. This shows the incredible power that is within each and every one of us. So this is what we could also learn, but it's of course very, very difficult to learn. Just to learn material consciousness-based telepathy is very few learn that in their lifetime. And spirit telepathy is a whole different league. So material-based consciousness telepathy reaches out about 1 million kilometers, that are about 3 light seconds. So you could reach someone on moon if you're telepathic and that person were telepathic, but on Mars or so you couldn't reach anyone. And so when people say, oh, I'm channeling people from Mars or Venus or whatever, all these different worlds, that is all nonsense, But this potential is in all of us. And if you follow Billy's advice and apply it step by step, you will get there also more and more, Even if you don't develop like telepathy, or the ability to teleport or things like that, that is not important. That are only byproducts of developing wisdom. that is what one should much more focus on, that you become a wise person, What is wisdom? What are the qualities of a wise person? And to develop that in you. And those abilities of telepathy and so on are not that important, actually. It's okay, and it's nice if you learn it, another skill, but it's not a requirement to be a good person, or become a wise person, and this year, these are just a few sentences, and Billy wrote books about just parts of it. So I will not explain what I know, the little bit I do. It's too complex now. But it basically originates from an absolute nothing, and then the Sein Absolutum came into being. And there are 7 other non-physical levels of being came into being, and then the lowest form of existence is the gross form, so the material form. And there are countless, really countless creations. So 10 to the 49, he writes, that's such a huge number, So our scientists, they are still kind of wondering if our universe is the only universe, and we have 7 parallel universes, and one of the other ones, the Pleiaren, are living, the Ankar universe, and we are in the Duran universe. That are the material universes, which are 7. And there are also, in each of those, are also 6 other non-physical areas, So a creation is already huge. And then there are basically 10 to the 49 countless, you could say, other creations, This shows how much you have to expand your consciousness when you want to just think about Billy's stuff, And then a woman called during their talk, and so Billy talked with this woman for quite a while. I don't want to read that all, it would take too long. But he also, it's also about the protocols of the Elders of Zion. And then Billy says, that is actually what I have to say to these questions, except perhaps that I have a good relationship with various Jewish believers, including an elderly woman and her 3 siblings whose parents were murdered by the Nazis during the last World War. So, because Billy is often, also I think on Wikipedia, that, he's anti-Semitic or stuff like that. That is not true at all. He's not that, and he's also not racistic or so. When also the Pleiaren also confirm what he then says in the contact reports, and their comments are often much harsher even than what Billy is saying, So it's not true, this what is propagated about Billy through mainstream media, or he isn't even in the mainstream media, but when then, or whatever media, this is not true. And he also wrote a small booklet about racism and anti-Semitism, and where he clearly shows that this is a defect of people who are racistic or so, but of course he states facts about the history of the Jews or so, which many Jews don't want to hear or so and don't like. And so then they just call him anti-Semitic, of course, which is, of course, always the easy way out. Instead of confronting the true facts about your history, And, because that goes against your habit again, and it requires a lot of energy. And most people are not willing to do that. And also people in the media, are not willing to work on themselves, rarely, and tell the truth, and look deeper, investigate deeper, and so on, And even if you have evidence, even if you have hard evidence, like the metal samples Billy had, like the mummies Jaime presented, Jaime also has like other hard evidence, objects that were found in Mexico, and they were analyzed, and he has like a sphere which is hollow, and they held a torch to it and it didn't melt, And this is it was 4,500 degrees hot, the welding torch, and it didn't do anything to it. I will talk about that some other time. And so there is hard evidence out there, but scientists, you don't find scientists, especially like high level, they don't want to look at it. They just refuse to look at it. And if they look at it, they are not willing to write a report on it, what they truly found, because they cannot explain it. And that's so embarrassing to them. Instead of acknowledging, we don't know, but that's what we found, That would be scientific, Maybe I can explain it some other time, later, but now we don't know. So that's also, that comes from the big ego of the scientists, And also the fear, of course, to, if they say this is extraterrestrial or so, that they're called also kooks and crazy and so on, So just because the Pentagon opened up a little bit, the fear factor is still gigantic, And I couldn't find anyone in the world who wanted a scientist or forensics who would look at Billy's photos, investigate them, and write a scientific report about it. That's what I wanted to do, and couldn't find a forensic. With a scientific report that would hold up in court. So they're all cowards. That's simply the fact, and it's the public ridicule. It's not about facts. It's the ridicule by media and the public, where they're afraid of. And I can understand that to some degree, but they're not scientists from my point of view. They shouldn't call themselves that, because a scientist goes by the facts, or a true investigator goes by the facts, and it's not biased, And Galileo also had to struggle with that, and it's still happening today, The UFO thing is the biggest story, and people, even scientists, are rarely to acknowledge the truth, what they find, that's that's for today. And so we cannot change the world, but everyone can change oneself, and that's what we have to work on. And that's a lifelong process. And don't worry so much about the idiots around in the world. They do their thing, you do your thing, and I can just confirm Billy's material is definitely worthwhile reading, and also learning to apply it in your life, and then things will get better. It might take its time, it might be hard, but it certainly works. So have a good time, and good luck, and good success.